My ex thinks he's marrying the girl of his dreams today. He has no idea that his best friend and I just spent the night in a cabin together, rewriting every rule in the book. This isn't just a wedding, it's a funeral for his ego. The envelope was a fancy, expensive shade of cream that practically screamed betrayal. Opening it felt like sticking my hand back into a fire I'd spent 2 years trying to put out. Inside, the gold letters mocked me. Leo and Sarah, together at last. It was an invitation to the wedding of the century. My ex-boyfriend was finally marrying the woman he always told me was just a friend. He was marrying the person he used to call me crazy for being worried about. My heart didn't break this time. Instead, it turned into a cold, hard piece of ice. I stood in my hallway looking at myself in the mirror. I looked like a girl who had been thrown away. I knew I couldn't just skip the wedding. If I stayed home, it would look like I was still crying over him. It would look like he won. I needed to walk into that ballroom looking better than I ever had. I needed a man on my arm who would make every head turn, especially Leo's. I needed a distraction so big that nobody would even remember who the bride was. But where do you find a guy like that on short notice? I scrolled through my phone, feeling hopeless. Then a name popped up that made my heart skip a beat: Shawn. Shawn had been Leo's best friend since they were kids. He was the best man type, tall, brooding, and always acting like he knew a secret no one else did. He was the one person Leo would absolutely hate to see me with. Leo always felt like he was in Shawn's shadow. If I showed up with him, it would be the ultimate payback. Shawn was always the quiet one in the group. While Leo was loud and always wanted attention, Shawn would just sit in the corner, watching everyone with those dark, intense eyes. I remembered how he used to look at me when Leo wasn't paying attention. It wasn't pity, it was something else, something deeper. I knew this was a dangerous plan, but I didn't care. I typed out a text before I could talk myself out of it. "Are you busy this weekend? I need a favor. A big one." He replied almost instantly, "Name the place." My heart hammered against my ribs. The game was on. Shawn didn't look like a guy doing a favor when he walked into the bar. He looked like a storm in a dark suit. The air in the room felt different as he walked toward my table. He didn't smile. He never really smiled. He just sat down across from me and stared into my eyes with an intensity that made it hard to breathe. We sat in silence for a minute, the history of our old friendship hanging in the air. "You want me to be your fake boyfriend to make Leo mad?" he asked. His voice was deep and low, the kind of voice you feel in your chest. I didn't try to play games or lie. Shawn was too smart for that. I just nodded and held my drink tightly. "I want him to see that I'm happy," I said, "and I want him to see that I've moved on to someone better than him." Shawn leaned forward, his face just inches from mine. I could smell his cologne, something that smelled like expensive wood and rain. "I'll do it," he said softly. "But if we do this, Sophia, we do it right. I don't do things halfway." He reached out his hand, but he didn't touch me yet. Total devotion. Every look, every touch, every word has to be perfect. People need to believe that I'm crazy about you. They need to believe I'd do anything to keep you safe. Then his thumb brushed against my bottom lip. It was a slow, heavy movement that sent a shock through my whole body. For a second, I forgot why we were even there. This didn't feel like a favor anymore. It felt like I was making a deal with someone who knew exactly how to make me lose my mind. "Do we have a deal?" he whispered. I couldn't even speak. I just whispered yes back at him. I could see a spark in his eyes that told me he was already playing for keeps. I had no idea what I was getting myself into, but as he held my gaze, I knew there was no turning back. The engagement party was full of fake laughter and expensive champagne. Walking in with Shawn felt like I was protected by a wall of steel. I had spent hours getting ready, wearing a tight emerald green dress that showed off everything, but Shawn was the real star. He walked with a quiet, scary kind of confidence that made everyone stop talking the moment we entered the room. I saw Leo across the bar. He was laughing and holding a drink, but the second he saw us, his face went totally blank. He looked like he'd seen a ghost. His grip on his glass tightened so much I thought it might break. Shawn didn't even look at him. He kept his eyes on me the whole time, leaning down to whisper things in my ear just to make it look like we were in our own little world. He kept his hand on my lower back, moving his thumb in small circles that made my skin feel like it was on fire. Then Sarah walked up to us. She was wearing a white dress, acting like she was already the queen of the world. "Sophia, you actually showed up," she said with a fake smile. Then she looked at Shawn, her eyes going wide. "And you brought Shawn, we haven't seen you in forever." Shawn pulled me even closer, his arm wrapping around my waist. "Sophia told me all about you," he lied, his voice sounding as smooth as silk. He looked down at me with so much love in his eyes that it actually hurt my chest. "I told her she was too nice. You're even more interesting than I thought." The way he said it made Sarah look very uncomfortable. Finally, Leo walked over, looking furious. "Shawn, what is this?" Shawn just looked at him, totally calm. "It's a party, Leo, and I'm here with my girlfriend. You remember Sophia, right?" The look Shawn gave him was a warning. He was telling Leo that he had taken something Leo threw away and made it his own. The first lie was out there, and the room was starting to feel very hot. The drive home after the party was quiet. After all the noise and the acting, the silence felt heavy. I looked out the window at the city lights, my mind spinning. I looked over at Shawn. He was driving with one hand, his jaw set tight. He looked different now that the audience was gone. He looked more serious, almost angry. "You were really good tonight," I said quietly. I couldn't look him in the eye. "The way you acted, for a minute, even I thought it was real." Shawn didn't say anything for a second. He pulled the car over to the curb in front of my apartment but didn't open the doors. He turned toward me, and the car engine hummed in the background. "Was I?" he asked, his voice sounding dark. The nice boyfriend act was totally gone. Now he just looked hungry. "Leo was always a fool, Sophia," he said, staring at my face. "He never realized what he had. He spent years looking for something new when he already had the best thing in the world." My heart started racing. Was he still acting? Was this part of the plan to make me feel better? He got out and walked me to my front door. He stood so close to me that I was backed up against the wall. I could smell the leather of his jacket and the spice of his cologne. "See you at the rehearsal dinner," he whispered, his eyes looking down at my mouth. He didn't kiss me, but the way he looked at me made me feel more than a kiss ever could. I watched him walk back to his car and realized that our fake deal was starting to fall apart. The lines were getting blurry, and I was starting to get scared of how much I wanted him to be telling the truth. The rehearsal dinner was at a big fancy estate. The air smelled like flowers, but it felt like a storm was coming. Everyone was whispering about us. Shawn was still acting like the perfect boyfriend, but he was being very quiet. There was a coldness in his eyes that hadn't been there before. Leo caught me alone in the garden while Shawn was getting a drink. He looked like he'd been drinking too much. "What are you doing, Sophia? This is crazy," he hissed, grabbing my arm. "Shawn is my best friend. You're just doing this to hurt me." I pulled my arm away and laughed. It was a mean sound. "You stopped having a say in my life when you cheated on me, Leo. Don't talk to me about what's crazy. You're the one who ruined everything." Suddenly, Shawn was standing right behind me. He didn't say anything, but he was so big and solid that Leo immediately stepped back. Shawn put a hand on my shoulder, protecting me. "Sophia, it's time to go," he said. His voice was flat and hard. Leo didn't say another word. He just turned around and ran back inside. But when we got in the car, Shawn was still upset. He gripped the steering wheel so hard his knuckles were white. "Is that all I am to you?" he asked. His voice sounded hurt. "Am I just a weapon you're using to hit Leo? Am I just a prop in your story?" I looked at him, wanting to tell him no. I wanted to tell him that being near him made me feel alive again, but I was too scared to say it. "Shawn, forget it," he said, staring at the road. The ghost of my old life with Leo was still between us, and it was ruining the only good thing I had. The night before the wedding, everything went wrong. A huge rainstorm hit the mountains, and the roads turned to mud. We were trapped in a small wooden cabin near the wedding venue. The lights went out, and the only light we had was from the fireplace. There was only one bed. The tension between us had been building up for days, and now it was finally about to explode. Shawn sat by the fire, his shirt unbuttoned. He looked tired and frustrated. "We should stop this," I said. My voice was shaking. I stood by the window, watching the rain hit the glass. "The wedding is tomorrow. We made Leo mad. That was the goal, right? We can just say we broke up after the wedding. This is getting too hard." Shawn stood up and walked toward me. He didn't look like a friend anymore. He looked like a man who had reached his limit. "You think this is a joke to me, Sophia?" he asked, his voice sounding like a growl. "You think I'm just that good at acting?" He grabbed my waist and pulled me against him. I could feel his heart beating fast against mine. I didn't do this to get back at Leo. I don't care about him. I did this because I've spent years watching him treat you like garbage while I was dying to show you how you should be loved. I've wanted you since the first day I met you. He tilted my head back and looked into my eyes. This isn't fake, Sophia, and I'm tired of pretending it is. The air felt like it was on fire. Everything was finally out in the open. Inside that cabin, with the fire glowing and the rain crashing on the roof, the rest of the world just disappeared. Shawn's touch wasn't careful anymore. It was hungry and real. When he finally kissed me, it wasn't a fake kiss for an audience. It was the most honest thing I'd ever felt. It felt like he was finally telling me everything he'd been hiding for years. We moved to the bed, the shadows of the fire dancing on the walls. Every time his hands touched my skin, it felt like he was erasing the memory of Leo. "You're mine," he whispered against my neck. His voice was thick with emotion. "You were never his. You were always supposed to be mine." We made love with a passion that took my breath away. It wasn't just physical. It felt like our souls were finally connecting. There were no more lies in that room. I didn't care about revenge or spite anymore. I only cared about the way Shawn held me. I cared about the strength in his arms and the way he said my name. It was like I was seeing the world clearly for the first time. Everything I thought I wanted from Leo was a lie. Shawn was the truth. Later, as the fire started to die down, he held me close to his chest. I could hear his steady heartbeat under my ear. For the first time, I felt safe. I wasn't just a girl who got cheated on. I was a woman who was loved. But as I started to fall asleep, I remembered the morning. The wedding was in a few hours. We had changed everything tonight, but we still had to face the world in the morning. Could this feeling last once we left this cabin? I woke up to the smell of coffee and a feeling of panic. The rain had stopped, and the sun was coming out. Shawn was already dressed in his suit, standing by the window. He looked like the best man again, but his eyes were different. The wedding was only 4 hours away. The act was supposed to end today, but I knew there was nothing fake about what happened last night. "Sophia," he said, still looking out the window. "When we go to that church today, you have to make a choice. Are you going there to say goodbye to your past, or are you going there to start a future with me? I won't go back to being a fake boyfriend. I want all of you or nothing at all." My heart felt like it was breaking. I realized that while I was trying to win a game against Leo, Shawn was actually falling in love with me. Just then, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Leo. "I made a mistake. I can't marry her. Meet me before the wedding starts. I need to talk to you. Please." I couldn't believe it. My past was literally begging me to come back. Leo was ready to ruin his own wedding for me. I looked at my phone, then I looked at Shawn. The choice was clear. Go back to the man who hurt me or stay with the man who had been waiting for me. "Shawn," I said, but he just shook his head. "Don't tell me here. Tell me at the church." He walked out, and I was left alone with the hardest choice of my life. The church was full of flowers and people in fancy clothes. I was in the back room, feeling like I couldn't breathe. Leo was there, packing back and forth. He looked a mess. "I can't do it, Sophia. Sarah isn't you. I was so stupid. We can leave right now. We can start over." He tried to grab my hands, but his touch felt cold. "Shawn is just using you. He's always been jealous of me." I looked at Leo and realized I didn't love him anymore. I didn't even hate him. I just felt sorry for him. He didn't care about me. He just didn't want Shawn to win. "You're wrong, Leo," I said. My voice was very calm. "Shawn is a better man than you'll ever be, not because of jealousy, but because he actually knows how to love someone." I walked out of the room and into the main part of the church. The music was playing, and everyone was looking at me. I didn't go to my seat. I walked right up to the front where Shawn was standing. He looked at me, his face showing no emotion, but I could see the fear in his eyes. I didn't wait for the ceremony to start. I stepped up and kissed him right there in front of everyone. The whole room went silent. I could hear Sarah gasp as she walked in. "I'm not here for the wedding," I said loudly, so Leo could hear me. "I'm here for you, Shawn, for real." I saw the look of relief and pure love on Shawn's face, and I knew I had made the right choice. The fake date was finally over, and our real life was beginning. We didn't stay for the rest of the wedding. Shawn took my hand and led me out of the church. My dress felt light as we ran down the stone steps. We didn't look back at the mess we left behind. We didn't care about the shouting or the drama. We were finally free. We drove for a long time, the wind blowing through our hair. We ended up at a beautiful cliff overlooking the ocean. The sun was shining on the water, making it look like gold. Shawn parked the car and looked at me with a huge, real smile. It was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. "So," he said, pulling me close, "no more plans, no more pretending to be my girlfriend just to make Leo mad." I laughed and put my arms around his neck. "No more plans," I promised. "No more faking anything." He kissed me, and it felt like home. There was no more anger or revenge. There was just us. We stood on that cliff for a long time, realizing that sometimes you have to go through a lot of pain to find the person you were always supposed to be with. We weren't characters in a revenge story anymore. We were just two people in love, starting our own beautiful story together. And this time, I knew it would have a happy ending.